Understanding God's nature is the term I try to wrestle with today's sermon. And I'm going to read something I found in Mother of Peace book. The dream of Jesus was to become the true parent, and as the only begotten son has to meet the only begotten daughter, and that she had to be sent by heaven. The only begotten daughter comes from, as Christianity developed first after the Holy Spirit. So can Christianity today develop after recognizing the inspiration by the Holy Spirit. True Mother, as the only begotten daughter, we had to create such an environment that the physical manifestation of the Holy Spirit is here today. So, who is this man? Supposedly be Jesus. But who was he? And what does it actually mean to believe in Jesus? This is not a new question. Humanity has wrestled with this for centuries, and it carries a deep paradox. The belief in God should lift us into unity, into higher consciousness, into love and reconciliation. Yet again and again, it seems to do the opposite. It divides us. It exposes our most fearful, divisive, and sometimes ungodly traits. One of the earliest and most tragic examples of this paradox is the crucifixion of Jesus Christ himself. And even today, when Christians gather as followers of Jesus, we often find ourselves unable to unite. Ironically, Christianity sometimes celebrated as a division of signs of unity. Last year, 2025, the Church commemorated the 1700-year anniversary of the Council of Nicaea. I also attended this 100-year anniversary of the Ecumenical Conference in Stockholm from 1925. When I told a Catholic friend that I was interested in attending the seminar on Nicaea, he nodded, shook his head and said, "Yes, that is a difficult topic." And it is. Because Nicea Creed stands at the heart of Christian unity and at the heart of Christian division. Why Nicaea matters. The Council of Nicaea in the year 325 is often remembered as a moment of great unity. But it was also a turning point in history. Christianity was no longer a persecuted underground movement. It became a public religion, politically, socially, and culturally influential within the Roman Empire. For the first time, Christian faith was openly discussed, not only as a personal belief, but as something with social and political consequences. Emperor Constantine had recognized Christianity, and the Church now carried a responsibility far beyond individual souls. What emerged at the Nicaea shaped not only Christianity, but the entire Western world. Our philosophy, our culture, our politics, and even understanding of truth itself. Nicaea reminds us that ideas matter. What we believe matters. And why we believe it matters even more. But what was the conflict about? As Christianity spread after Jesus' ascension, largely in a secret throughout the Roman Empire, different understandings of Jesus emerged. Was he a man? Was he divine? And if he was both, how could he be understood? Jesus walked among human beings. He suffered, he died, yet he was believed to save humanity from sin. What gave him that authority? There was also political tension beneath the theology. Roman emperors were often given divine, semi-divine status. If Jesus was to be proclaimed Lord, then he had to stand above the emperor. And how could be that unless Jesus himself was understood as God? This was not only a theological question, it was psychological, social, political, and deeply existential. After Constantine's conversion in 312 and legalization of Christianity in 313, he became clear that Christianity could not function as a unifying faith unless it was unified internally. And so the churches gathered at Nicaea. At the center of the debate was two figures from Alexandria, Arius and Athanasius. Arius argued that the Son was created by the Father. There was, he said, a time when the Son was not. Jesus was extraordinary, greater than all creation, but still not fully God. Athanasius responded that if Christ was not fully God, then salvation itself would collapse. Only God could reconcile humanity to God. Therefore, the Son had to be co-eternal, of the same substance as the Father. The entire debate turned on a single Greek letter. Homoios, same substance. Homoousios, similar substance. One letter, a universe of consequences. The idea did not emerge in a vacuum. The idea was shaped by philosophical climate of the time, especially Neoplatonism. Plato, writing in centuries before Christ, did not speak of a personal God, he didn't know one, but of a transcendent source of all being, an ultimate reality expressed through many forms. This made it conceivable to imagine God manifest as a Father, Son, and Spirit, theologically, philosophically intertwined, shaping doctrine in ways that still define us today. Nicaea stands as a symbol of unity, but also as a warning. Unity achieved through power can easily become enforced through exclusion. So there were heated battles between these two continents. And there were even physical. And we know the battles came in afterwards also in the division of the churches. So I want to take a picture when the present Pope, Leo XIV, went to Nicaea last year to try to embrace this kind of unity with the Orthodox Christian leaders. So he stated, "We are more powerful and more credible when we are united in our witness, a response to the challenge of the contemporary world." And as you know, it's not history only, this division. It actually even boils down to the war in Ukraine. It's very much divided between the Ukrainian who are Catholic and the Ukrainian who are Orthodox. So the Orthodox, in the same way in whole Eastern Europe, the Orthodox align more because of their religious affiliation and cultural affiliation with Russia. And the Western, the Catholics, more align with the West. So this historical disunity has a very strong implication of today's struggles and human struggles. And this is something actually even the Archbishop Nathan Söderblom, he worked for Christian unity, and in 1925 he made this conference which we were commemorating last year. There was 100-year anniversary of that. And I realized then, I attended this Nicaea conference, that he did it in 1925 because that was the 1600 years anniversary of the Nicene Creed. At that time, he wanted to bring all the religious Christian denominations together, but the Catholic Church at that time refused to come. At this time, the Catholic Church represented by the Swedish Cardinal Arborelius. He actually attended also, realized, one of our Swedish ecumenical interfaith program. We had a Swedish Religious Fredsråd some years ago. Anyway, this historical struggle reminds us of the painful truth. Much religious persecution has been driven by the desire to protect unity by fear of differences. Nicaea challenged us not only to defend what we believe, but ask us what we believe at, and how our beliefs shape the way we treat one another. Today, the conflict around belief and our difficulty in resolving it has real consequences for the world we live in. It begins personally. If we do not know how to think about what is right, how we can know how to live. And even when we are convinced we are right, how do we live peacefully with those who think differently? In the West, one response has been to remove religion and therefore God from public sphere. I call this repressive secularism. It is not only the idea that state should be separate from religion, but that society itself should be guided by values that have nothing to do with faith or spirituality. Over time, secular has become to mean non-religious. This may seem harmless, but it becomes serious when we speak about values, families, and the moral foundation of society. About how we deal with guilt, responsibility, and forgiveness. Just yesterday, together with Britta and others, I attended an event addressing the growing crime wave in Sweden. It was organized by a former criminal together with victims of crime. They spoke about the human cost, lives lost, families broken, communities wounded. The Queen was a representative award, and the government was also there, giving their political take of it. As I listened, I was reminded of our own blessing campaign in 1997, when many of us went out to bless people and speak about the importance of family, not only in a spiritual sense, but for the society as a whole. Secure families living in safe communities bound by solidarity. This is where children thrive. Sadly, that message did not spread very far at that time. That is why it is so important to remind ourselves and our children of our values. I'm especially grateful to those of you in the second generation who recognize the value of culture you grew up with. You carry something very essential. The question before us, how do we share it today? Yesterday's gathering made one thing clear. Although lives have already been lost, we must act now. This is not a problem the police or the government can solve. It is a responsibility shared by all of us. They spoke about families. They spoke about communities who have broken down. And when we speak about values of blessing culture, this is exactly what we mean and talk about. The event ended with a sermon where Christians from different traditions stood together and affirmed a simple truth. Despite our differences, love is what ultimately brings us together. In conclusion, faith is nothing abstract or merely personal. Our faith has consequences. However, doctrines should be viewed as a way to develop ourselves rather than as a tool for policing others. Just because someone has a different doctrinal understanding does not necessarily mean they are wrong. Yes, they could be wrong, but it can also be an opportunity for me to grow in my own understanding and in my own heart. After all, according to our beliefs, human beings carry their own responsibility and grow step by step. We can simply identify each stage of growth as followers. First, the physical stage, or the bodily growth. The second, the mental, intellectual growth. And the third, the artistic growth. Providentially, we know that humanity fell at the top of the growth stage, meaning we never truly entered the artistic level. We can use our mind to do external things, produce wonderful signs, but our minds are not fully equipped to understand the matters of heart. This is why it's important that at the top of the growth stage, we meet God and He guides us so that we can think and feel like God. And fallen human beings cannot do this. So the point of Jesus being begotten has the implication that Jesus is in fact very different from human beings in general. Jesus could understand and recognize God's heart and try to awaken humanity, which He failed to do so. This brings us to today and the conflict of our own movement is facing, especially since Mother Hakanahan has proclaimed herself as the only begotten daughter. If we think about it, this claim is not only something about herself, but also aligns her position with Athanasius rather than Arius. The interpretation may, as previously held, was that Arius was right, as we at Unification thought. At least we understood it from a spiritual holistic perspective. Faith is nothing abstract and personal. Our faith has consequences, but doctrines should be viewed as a way to develop ourselves instead of policing others. My point was, this homoousios, same substance, This is the connection I want to make here. Homoousios, same substance. A substance can mean element. An element, I can look at lineage. And homoousios, similar substance, is a different element. That means another lineage. And when Father talks about the blessing, and Tryphaenos talks about the blessing, he always talks about lineage. He talks about the three main things: love, life, and lineage. And I'll never forget when Father asked this question. These are the three most important things, but which one is most important? So I would think love may be most important, or some people would think life is more important. But then Father said later on at another speech, he said actually that lineage was most important. And that has to do with, I think, I connect this with the substance. So in one sense, that we say that Jesus is different from us is actually quite true. Not in a biological sense, but in a spiritual sense. And that was most significant. So when Mother says she's the only begotten, that means actually she doesn't say the claim, of course, that she is God herself, the creator. But she is an image of the ideal of the creation, what God had from the very beginning. So in that sense, she is from the beginning. And I make her substance different than everybody else. And that's how we should benefit by looking at her. But receiving the blessing, then we had the opportunity to become part of that sense of substance. We become part of that lineage. So we become different. That doesn't avoid us from growing ourselves and developing ourselves. So the only way we can fully do God's will is by understanding God's desire for us. And that desire is to build Chonelguk, the peace kingdom. Now this is primarily a political another primarily political institution. It's a cultural reality, a kingdom of peace created together by people working with one another for the common good, supporting each other and benefiting each other. Only when we do this, only when we truly live in unity and cooperation, can we accomplish our own salvation. And I think this is something which all people or beliefs can share. And then that's the way we can have a peaceful world realized. Okay, let me conclude in prayer.